Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just convened his first emergency security meeting.
זו הישיבה הראשונה של ממשלת החירום הלאומית.
At that emergency security cabinet meeting, Netanyahu sending a message of national unity at home and abroad as Israel is prepared for its anticipated ground offensive in Gaza. The Israeli military has renewed its warnings for more than 1 million civilians in Gaza to head south. And today it's telling people not to come within 4 kilometers of the border with Lebanon. This comes as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening with shortages of water and food and civilians trying to find safety amid airstrikes. This morning, I spoke with the IDF's Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner about that reality on the ground in Gaza and the next phase of the war. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Rosemary.
Can we start maybe just by getting an idea of when the ground operation will begin, or if it's already begun?
We're in day 9 now of the operation to defeat and destroy Hamas's capabilities as the leaders of Gaza, as the governing force of Gaza, as the orchestrator, and Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas Prime Minister of Gaza, is the mastermind of the massacre. So we are currently continuing our air assaults, utilizing some artillery and some special forces raids around the border area at this time. It is ongoing. As far as increasing the activities, I would say we are focusing very much at this stage on special forces, Hamas special forces, the Nukhba force. So we're targeting their leaders. We were able last night to strike one of their terrorists, one of the people that breached the border area in Israel and penetrated Kibbutz Nirim. His name is Bilal El-Qudra, and he was actually the commander of the Nukhba forces from Khan Yunis. So we're taking them out. We're destroying their operational capabilities such as drone capabilities that they have. We destroyed drones with explosives that they had set up on the rooftops of houses, and we're targeting their rocket launchers and their command and control positions. So it is ongoing. With regard to broadening the scope of that, the potential of a ground operation, if we're instructed to, so we are currently in the stage of amassing our forces. The government has approved the recruiting of reservists, and we have some 300,000 reservists that have been recruited to the IDF. Many of those are in the staging grounds around the Gaza Strip. But if the government gives the green light or the instruction to move forward, we'll be ready to mobilize. We're currently in the preparations stage, but that's where we are currently. We're not actually mobilizing as yet.
The fact that Hamas has, I think at last count from your organization, the IDF, 126 hostages, how complicated does the offensive become for you, given that you know that Hamas is holding these Israeli hostages somewhere?
Well, obviously, we're very concerned about the welfare of the Israelis and others that were abducted by Hamas on the October 7th massacre. We are taking that into consideration in our operational planning. Obviously, we see Hamas as responsible for the well-being of the 120 or so people that are being held unlawfully by Hamas. And I think, I want to be very, very cautious because it is such a delicate issue, and I don't want to jeopardize any attempts to try and get them out, release them more operationally. So I think I would like to leave it at that if we can.
Okay, understood. Gaza's health ministry says 300 people were killed over the past 24 hours. The IDF has given warnings to civilians to move out of northern Gaza. But as you know, there are some people who can't, and there are some people who won't. How do you ensure that you are not killing civilians?
So first of all, we've instructed, now this is day 3 of an evacuation of the north of the Gaza Strip. And we're happy to see that despite Hamas's attempts to prevent it, there are many people that are actually adhering to our instructions. This is a measure to try and save Palestinian lives, whereas so that we can deal with Hamas and seek them out, whereas Hamas is trying once more to prevent that and put Palestinians' lives at risk. They have no regard for the people of Gaza, which is unfortunate, and they have failed them miserably. When you quote the Ministry of Health in Gaza, we have to remember that this is the Ministry of Health of Hamas. And Yahya Sinwar, as I rightly pointed out, is the mastermind of the massacre. He has subordinated the entire institutions of the Hamas body for terrorism. So when we're quoting the facts, figures, and people, we need to keep that in mind, and that is under the umbrella of this terrorist organization that has no regard. So we need to be very cautious when we're quoting them.
Well, let me then quote the Director General from the Red Crescent Society. As you know, they have a hospital in Gaza City, the Al-Quds Hospital. He tells me that there are, at different points, 5,000 people in the hospital, either because they are, injured or ill, or because they're sheltering in the hospital, and that it's impossible to evacuate from that hospital. And indeed, according to him, against international rules of engagement. What do people do then if they're caught in the hospital and they can't leave because they are unwell? Is there a commitment to make sure that the hospital remains safe?
But the Israeli Defense Forces operate in accordance to the laws of armed conflict. So, of course, there are institutions and protected places, and we adhere to that. Mm-hmm. I would recommend that all of the international bodies that are operating actually within the Gaza Strip actually facilitate the shift of people from north to south and not block it, because by blocking it, you are preventing and actually putting more people at risk. Because if we need to mobilize and if we're instructed to do so, we will, and that could potentially put more people at risk. That it is not illegal to fight a war against a ruthless, brutal, merciless enemy like Hamas, even in urban areas. We will do our best to mitigate and limit the civilian casualties. And one of the activities that we're doing, such as sending text messages to people to evacuate, announcing that we're coming, suggest dropping leaflets from the sky, so that people know that there are safer areas where you can be, where your needs can be met. Now, when Hamas is preventing them, and when organizations like the PCRS, the Red Crescent Society, are withholding it, instead of encouraging people to go south, they're actually jeopardizing them. We don't want necessarily, like in Canada, we operate out of a military necessity. Yes. Within the laws of armed conflict and with proportionality and against the military mission. And we will do so in order to, in the scope of minimizing civilian casualties. But if they don't move, that could be unnecessary damage caused by those that have not shifted.
Yes, I understand that, Lieutenant Colonel. I would also, though, say that there are people who can't be moved. One of the things that the Red Crescent Society pointed to was babies in incubators. I'm sure you understand the complexity of moving people with medical conditions or who might be severely injured, for instance.
Well, we are now on day 3. Yeah. This, it could have been done. They could have continued to do so. As I said, we will continue to operate in accordance to the guidance of distinction, military necessity, and proportionality, and the laws of war.
Let me ask just one last question, if I can, because there are some Canadians in Gaza who are, they feel at least trapped in Gaza because they can't get out. Our Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, told me that she had assurances from her counterpart, her Israeli counterpart, that Canadians and other foreign nationals would be allowed out. I understand you don't control the border, the Rafah border in Egypt, but will there be any assurances from the IDF that those people can get out of Gaza before things escalate further?
So while I'm aware of the discussions taking place, I would say that the IDF is currently responsible for fighting. We are the warriors defeating Hamas. I'd say let's leave the diplomacy to the diplomats to sort out that access if it does indeed happen. Of course, the IDF will facilitate.
Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Lerner, thank you for taking time. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Rosemary.